to the rally in the valley.
Hey, Mikey here. Welcome to Rally in the Valley, the series where I take rally-tuned cars down my custom rally stage in Forza Horizon 5 to see which car reigns supreme in its PI class. Today, the first group of vehicles with many different builds in S1 class will take to the course, going over a bumpy and technical 4.2-mile course to determine what vehicle is the top of S1 Rally. The rules are simple. There will be 2 chances to put down a clean time. If you miss a checkpoint and can't make it back before the reset, the run is restarted. If it happens again, that's a DQ. Our first car up today is the 2014 Lamborghini Huracan LP610-4, which was tuned inspired by the Storado, even though that comes 10 years later than this model. But it is a Storado-inspired tune. And it was a tune that I actually did on a stream a long time ago, just because I had heard about the Storado, and I was very happy with how the car came out at the time, so I decided to give it a shot at the S1 class. And early on in the run, you can see that it's very smooth. The car is handling very well. It's not missing marks, really. It's planted very well. It just wanted to get up and go. It has the right combination of horsepower and torque that it's not out of control, but it's powerful enough that it is able to fly through the course and is very easy to get on the gas after having to go through a braking zone. So as we head down to the hard left, the S1 class as a whole it was a little tricky trying to get that corner right, but you can see maybe locked a little bit, causing it to slide down to that corner, but it did not overshoot, so the rest of the run went on without any delays or interruptions or any problems as we make our way through the dragons onto the first gravel section. Again, a section that would have been very easy at this speed to unsettle a car and just miss the mark very slightly, hitting the grass on the outside. Heading down the second gravel section, it's again just putting down a lot of speed going through, taking the little bend back turns fairly straight, as that was easier than trying to actually navigate that as a slight turn, but with no huge amount of force and track limit in that area. It made it very easy. And this is probably the area where the car struggled the most. I locked it up on that turn into the left into the final dirt section, causing it to miss slightly, but still putting down an absolutely amazing time at this point. As we go through the shipping containers and into the hairpin section, again, just no issues with the Huracan whatsoever. Going through the hairpin, going into the little bit of the lake that formed, the puddle, and crossing the line, putting up a time of 2 minutes 46.985 seconds, which actually would have won the S2 class. So it'll be interesting to see what some of the expected stronger cars in S1 will do compared to those S2 cars. Next up, we go to the 1974 Lancia Stratos, and going from a Storado to a traditional rally build, which this car should be able to put down a good time, but at 400 pounds lighter than the Forza Horizon version of a Storado, it could have a little bit of a problem in the bump section, but as you can see, it gets through the first tarmac section very well. It has a lot of torque to help it accelerate out of the corners. It got a little understeery in the first couple corners, but it does start improving on the dirt section as we start heading into the valley. As we go through the dirt section, as you can see, it actually is handling the bumps and the ride pretty well. And like I said, the lack of weight was one of the areas I was a little afraid of, but it did get a little bit of a bump there. So it is dependent on where on the course it basically hits. As you saw, it get a little twitchy in that section there, again, off of a bump. But as it heads down towards the hard left to head out of the first dirt section, it is actually running very well. I have to slow it down a bit to make sure it doesn't overrun that bump. As we get through the first dirt section with a few interesting adventures, but nothing too bad. And again, there's a theme that affects a lot of these cars in this competition, is that at times the off-road race tires just don't grip on the tarmac surfaces very well. As you can see, it being a little more comfortable, and I took that corner with a little too much speed, so that was driver error. But as you can see, in the off-road sections, a lot of these cars are much more comfortable. They're much more grounded. Even being a lighter weight car, this is still not having as many problems with the bumps as I expected. And I know I'm probably scrubbing a couple seconds, not seconds, but at least tenths of seconds off in various areas, because this car really was a handful to drive. It was fun to drive, but it really was a handful. But it likes being thrown around. It's really good for that. As you can see, just drove it into a tree, which is a few seconds. But because it came off the corner, just like I said, it was a little bit of a handful. Fun car to drive, handful. Very good time, though. Very, very fun to drive. Might need just a tiny bit of final tuning in to make it one of the overall top cars I have in any class overall as we cross the finish line. And it's going to finish second at 2 minutes 54.326 seconds. And it's looking like anything is going to have a hard time catching what time the Storado threw down. And up next, we have the S1 version of the 2007 Peugeot 207 Super 2000. And this car is a fast, powerful, despite being a little bit lower in horsepower and torque than some of its competitors. It's fast, it's twitchy, it's a little out of control. It was a white knuckle run, and I'm really just going to let this run speak for itself, and I'll pick back up towards the end of the run. And as we head into the last stretch, you can see that this was really kind of a white knuckle ride, that if this was a real car, this would have been very much fun to throw around, get out there. Who knows how it would have gone, but it really was a fast car. It just felt very much out of control for most of the run. And what really surprised me is I didn't actually fully lose control of the car as we come across the finish line after a hard turn at the end. Surprisingly, this car put down a 2:52.55 second run, putting it second, which felt really weird considering the fact that I never truly felt in control of the car. But it'll be interesting to see what the rest of the class can do. Up next, we have the 1994 Hoonigan Ford Escort RS, Kazi V version 2, modified version of that. This was a car I built to take on a couple seasonal PR events, but actually worked better in those than I expected. So I decided I will give it a chance to run here as it had been useful in a couple offline races. And I may have given it a little too much credit, especially on the tarmac sections, as it really did not handle the road well, but that's not abnormal for cars on off-road race tires. As it initially it felt much better going into the dirt section, but as you'll see, the run just started really getting away from me. I think I put way too much credit into this car. It's good. I think it would be good with some if I were to retune it, but in the current state, it is just a handful, a lot like the 207 in S1. This part wasn't too bad, but as you can see, I really did not hit anything very well to make this turn, which cost a significant amount of time. And then, as you can see, I actually don't know what I did there to manage to do that. Combination of bump and bad braking, I'm going to guess. But this car, again, was another one that just really didn't feel under full control in some sections, but in some sections it felt great. And again, it felt like the car was getting away from me on this asphalt section before heading into the first part of the gravel. But again, in the gravel, it starts off feeling mostly alright, a little bit of oversteer there, which isn't the worst thing off-road, to have a little bit of oversteer, slide it through the corners, but there were times where it just felt like the oversteer in it was very much excessive. As we head towards the end of the gravel section and back onto tarmac, and it's just hasn't been a consistent feeling run. I never fully got a great feel of the car on this course. And as you can see, it just locked up and turned itself to the right. So I basically had to make a 180 to get back onto the dirt section. Again, another very significant time loss. Going onto the dirt section, and again, starting on the dirt section, it feels good, but it'll quickly just start kind of feeling like it wants to do its own thing again as we head into the last section going towards the hairpin. And again, the back end just kicking out more than I would like it to, even though I wanted to slide a little bit. That was more slide than I really wanted. And get out wide there and cross the finish line. That's going to be a fourth place time of 3 minutes 14.646 seconds. The only thing that could happen is some cars further down the list on other days have bad runs, but that was not a great time. And finally up for today, we have the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle Super Sport. This lower PI car actually has put up good results in head-to-head races. So it'll be interesting to see how it takes this course in a time trial type event. But as you can see, it gets off the line very well, very smoothly. A little bit of feeling of a little bit of floatiness to start, but that kind of settles out as we get settled into the track. And that was just me missing the braking point a little bit. But this car really does excel in courses where it can really stretch its legs out. It has 1,015 horsepower, and it both uses the horsepower and torque very well. So not only can it get up to speed very easily, it handles getting out of the corners and deceleration back to acceleration very well as well. As you can see, getting through the valley with no problems, and being one of the heavier cars in today's group, it's really not affected much by the bumps and anything on the course, as I took it a little hot, but again, it's using its weight and power just to be able to get itself back on track. Going back under the googly eyes as the back end wants to kick out and go through the corners, which again is fine, as this car does do very well in situations where you have to throw it into the corner. So we head under the Dragon and onto the gravel part. I really have no complaints about the way that the Chevelle is running. It is a good feeling car, and like I said, it does really well where it can really put down its power and explode out of corners, as I missed a turn there. A little bit late on the brakes. But we go again through the second part of the gravel portion past the construction wreck. And the Chevelle is putting down what feels like a really good time, as there is a group of two cars within a couple seconds there, about 8 seconds behind the Storado, and this run is going very well. Going through the last of the tarmac sections, and the Chevelle back on dirt, back off-road where it's more comfortable. Going down the last part of the dirt section, as it just feels really good. Again, not really bothered, as you see it gets a little bit of a jump there and lands very nicely, very composed. Going into the hairpin, and again, this is where you would expect a big, heavier muscle car with a lot of power, and not really designed to be run in this manner to struggle, but the Chevelle did not struggle, and it comes across the line putting up a time of 2 minutes 54.927 seconds, which puts it in fourth for the day, but a very strong run, again, in that group of three with the 207 and the Stratos, ahead of the Hoonigan, and well behind the Storado, which, I mean, that was really going to be a difficult time to put down. But yeah, that is it for S1 class. Join me again next time as C class will finish up the last three vehicles in their class and determine the C class champion. So yeah, until next time, have a good one, and I will see you later.